Welcome back to another edition of Between Two FARS. I'm Warnke Miller, and I am joined today by the amazing Robert Tepfer and the equally fantastic David Schuman. And Bob and Dave are both litigation experts here at NASA and have a great deal of time put in front of the ASBCA. And they're here today to just help us understand, what does it take to become a litigator? Now, I know you guys are all NASA attorneys, and that is a fantastic accomplishment. But now you've got something that's landed on your desk, and you're expected to morph into litigation mode. So how do you become a litigator? Do you have any tips or insight for this person who's sitting here and going, oh, I've always been a transactional attorney, and now I've got to litigate this contract case? What do they need to know?
I think that probably the biggest thing, we talked about it a couple minutes ago, is the mindset. It has to change from the standpoint of, you are now in the position of having, even if you've got a lot of resources, you don't have a lot of time and you have a lot of work, and you're going to have to make some very difficult decisions. Lots of transactional people will refine things over and over and do a really fine document, and they got the time to do it. In the context of litigation, Dave made the comment that you don't effectively get the document done as much as you run out of time, okay? The document will not be perfect, but will it be good enough? And that's very difficult for some people to accept, because they'll read it over again and think of what could be different. Also, in the context of motions, I never had a case where, I didn't have like what could have been 4 or 5 motions that I could file that I thought were really excellent opportunities. But, I have a family, I have a life, and if I do it, I do it at the expense of another particular project or aspect of that case. So you have to make some very rough choices. And I think a lot of people worry about the criticism. And you will see that. You have folks come in who have never handled any litigation, and they'll be your helper after the fact and tell you what you should have done. Then that'll be the 2 motions you did not file, and explain how things would have been different. And that really, really drives me crazy when I particularly watch it done to somebody else, because unless and until you have been there, you have no idea the difficult decisions you have to make.
Dave, how would you, if you were talking to somebody who's got the first piece of litigation, what advice would you give them? How do they become a litigator?
Yeah, so I'll mention 2 topics. First, most importantly, even though you may feel a bit overwhelmed when the litigation lands on your desk and thinking about discovery and you want to plunge right in, a very efficient use of time through these wonderful videos that Warnke's putting together, or word of mouth, in-person conversations. It's certainly worth having a very lengthy, detailed conversation with NASA lawyers who have been through litigation, in particular the type of litigation that you have been handed, as far as they've taken it. Even though you think that may be not the best use of time, it is highly efficient, because you will learn from the experience, as I did 20 years ago, by word of mouth and wonderful conversations with Bob and other NASA lawyers, long retired, that will stand you in very good stead and give you tips and make your future work on the case much more efficient. So have those discussions certainly at the beginning, and touch base, time permitting, throughout the litigation. It will make it more efficient. That's all point 1. Point 2, as Bob mentioned and we touched on earlier, you will feel pressure to make it perfect. All your motions, your pre-hearing brief, your post-hearing brief. We filed the pre-hearing brief in our case with about 5 minutes to go before midnight West Coast time, because that was using the full window. Not my preference, but as Bob mentioned, perfectionism is probably not the best mindset for litigation. Our clients are engineers, wonderful people, extremely talented. They have a saying, perfection is the enemy of the good. And that is true in litigation. It's true in the motions and briefs that you will file. Keeping in mind the burden is on the appellant to prove entitlement. Your work does not have to be perfect. It never will be perfect. You may still win the case and you'll go on to a wonderful career as a national lawyer. So I say this as a perfectionist. You will suffer and you have to manage that expectation, but you can still do an adequate job, and adequate is all that's necessary to poke holes in the appellant's case. Such that you defend the agency successfully.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your insight. And really, listen to what they're saying. Understand what you're getting into. And to the extent you don't understand, go ahead and reach out to the people who have been there before you. We're all one team here, and you will get through this litigation. We'll see you again next time between two FARS.